Hey, Texas Values friends, Jonathan Saenz here, president of Texas Values. We're on the floor of the Republican Party of Texas Convention in the exhibit hall. If you're around somewhere, come by and see our booth. We've got a lot of great stuff. What we don't have is these 10 Commandments lapel pins because they're sold out, all right? Everybody loved them. They were gone like the first day, I think, but we might get some reinforcements. But we're going to have a great conversation today with our friend Senator Middleton, who is coming off just a couple of weeks ago an incredible victory, becoming the Republican nominee for Texas Attorney General for the state of Texas. But before he got to that point, we've done some great work together. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. Senator Middleton, good to be with you, sir.
Thank you for having me on here today.
Not too far from your district.
No, we're right here in Harris County, and, I'm in SD11 for now, Harris, Galveston, Brazoria County, but now the Republican nominee for Texas Attorney General.
Well, I'm glad. I bet your family's glad that you're closer to home. You've been traveling a lot across the state.
It's great to have the convention here in Houston.
Well, and look, the George R. Brown Convention Center, massive facility here. Houston, fourth largest city in the country, largest in the state. I imagine this is bringing some excitement to the area.
Yeah, look, you see the energy here. Everyone knows what we're facing here, and the most important thing, the reason why we're all here fighting, is to defeat the left. That's what matters the most in November, because they want to destroy Texas. They want to drag us down like they've already done in New York and California, and they want to undo the good work that we've done here together, especially at Texas Values. I don't know if y'all know, but my Democrat opponent in November, Nathan Johnson, he said the number one law that he would not enforce is the women's privacy law. In other words, he would fight to get men with mental illness, by the way, into little girls' restrooms and locker rooms, right? He is campaigning on breaking the law and admitting that he would violate his oath of office on day one. So these are the things that we're facing in November. This is why it's so important that we win decisively.
Yeah, well, look, in Texas Values Action, we endorsed Senator Middleton for Attorney General in that race, a very competitive race, a spirited race, one might say. And a lot of that had to do with our work together on issues like the Texas Women's Privacy Act, which was a huge issue. Just speaking of Houston, that was an issue that went to the ballot about 10 years ago. We knew then it was a problem. Now we've got statewide protection because of your leadership.
This is common sense stuff, right? The left is in a war against the right, but they're also in a war against common sense. That's why we had to author and pass, and that was my law, the Save Women's Sports Law, which Texas Values was a champion for from day one. They pushed it relentlessly. It took us a little while to get it done. But simple things like no men in women's sports. Men were unfairly competing against women. They were stealing victory. They were stealing hard-earned spots on teams. They were compromising the scholarships of actual women, right? These were men pretending to be women, by the way. Let's be honest about what this really is. These are perverted men, right? And they were in the locker room. Riley Gaines, of course, was a champion with this, and she was obviously worked extensively with Texas Values to make this sure that this became law in the great state of Texas.
Well, and one of those guys that was pretending to be a woman was from the state of Texas. Leah Thomas, his birth name, Will Thomas, was from the Austin area. That's one of the athletes, the main athlete, if you will, that Riley Gaines was forced to compete against. But we got that law passed. You led that effort in the state of Texas. We've been working on forcing that. This month, the Department of Education is recognizing this as Title IX month. You're seeing a big change from the federal level, and Texas is right there playing an important part on this issue.
Right, and even more basic than that, I authored and sponsored the What is a Woman Act. Very simple. It just says man and woman. That means biological male, biological female. And your birth sex, that's your God-given sex, period. You can never change it. It was a 2-hour debate on the Senate floor. 2 hours worth of debate. And actually my colleague, who is a woman, by the way, Molly Cook, she's far left, she couldn't answer that question. And she said, we got to look at the two-spirit people. What is that, right? This is the kind of nonsense. These are the kind of lunatics that we're facing, and they want to run Texas. I don't think so.
Well, and look, and people like James Tallarico, he says there's 6 genders. Somebody asked me which one I think he is. I don't know, maybe he's all 6. Who knows, okay? But that's how ridiculous some of this stuff has gotten. But the city of Houston is very familiar with these issues, and obviously across the state. You travel the state. These issues have been resonating with people. Let's pivot a little bit, though, towards November. We posted a video of an exchange that you and Nathan Johnson had. He's obviously a member of the Senate from the North Texas area. But how do you see these issues playing out for voters? Because they can vote Republican or Democrat in November, but I mean, we have seen Republicans take a lead on this issue.
Well, I mean, look at the things that he stood for. This is somebody, Nathan Johnson, my Democrat opponent in November, he voted to allow the police to be defunded. He wants to be the state's top cop and said it was just fine to defund the police. I don't think so. And look, the 10 Commandments we talked about earlier, prayer in schools, huge priorities of mine, tough fight to get that done. He said it was a problem to have prayer in the 10 Commandments in schools, but it was just fine. No problem at all to have pornography in the libraries and classrooms. That shows you how far the left has come, because the left is coming for our children. We've seen this again and again, and they want to undermine our state. So another issue, right, that we fought for this past session was to stop enemy entities and countries from buying Texas out from underneath us. Nathan Johnson voted against that. He literally wants countries that host Death to America rallies to buy Texas out from underneath us. They are not Texas first. They are not America first.
Well, and this is the office that you're the nominee for is the Attorney General of the state of Texas. So much about enforcement, and I think that's been the case the time that you've been in the House and the Senate, focusing on enforcement. Tell us, our viewers, a little bit about maybe what they don't know or they should know about the importance of the Attorney General's office.
Well, I mean, look, our laws, our Constitution, those are not suggestions. And anyone that treats them that way has violated their oath of office, and they need to be removed from office. And we've got 11 million Texans that are living under George Soros district attorneys right now. And I will make sure that our laws are enforced. And if you're in the way, right, if you've got a policy of not prosecuting, you need to be removed from office. It is that simple, and I want to make sure that Texas is the safest state in America to live and raise a family. Election integrity, that's another good example. I mean, do we really believe a George Soros DA is going to prosecute voter fraud? Of course not. And that's why the AG's office has the power, that backup power to prosecute, because we've got to make sure our election integrity laws are being enforced, because we can elect all the conservatives we want in the primary and the runoff, but if they steal it from us in November, it doesn't matter. We got to make sure only legally qualified citizens are voting in Texas.
Well, and there are 3,000 employees or so in the Attorney General's office, over 750 lawyers. One of the cases that's been before the federal court that the Attorney General's office has been defending is the Texas 10 Commandments law. There's still time that the ACLU could appeal that to U.S. Supreme Court. I don't think they will. Their New York lawyers from the ACLU already lost an appeals court, but that's another reason why it's important to have the right people in that office.
That's right. The ACLU, of course, hates everything that we do. I mean, if it's a faith family bill, if it's a Texas values bill, you can rest assured they're going to be on the other side of it. I mean, they were fighting to get boys in girls' sports. They were fighting to get men in little girls' restrooms and showers. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they stand for. They always side with the radical Muslims as well, when we're trying to defeat Sharia law and passing legislation to do that. Really, the list goes on, and their arguments are meritless. We got rid of the lemon test. That was a huge victory in the Coach Kennedy case that we had. And look, America was founded on this. It says in the preamble to our Texas Constitution, humbly invoking the blessings of Almighty God. You know what? That's a prayer. Separation of church and state, that is a lie that the left has told for years to try to take God out of government. But our founding fathers were Christian. Texas is a Christian state. These are the things that are important to us, the things that we are founded on, and we know in a constitutional republic, I am here and we are here to protect and defend those God-granted freedoms that are enumerated in our Constitution. Government doesn't grant us any freedoms, but I am here to protect and defend those God-granted freedoms, especially in the Attorney General's office.
Well, you're in a conference where there's a convention with 8,000 to 10,000 Republican delegates, but you're coming into this event as the nominee for Attorney General of the state of Texas. How's been the reception been with delegates now that you're in this statewide role?
It's been fantastic. I see a lot of MAGA Maze hats around the convention center here. My 4-year-old little girl, I knew she'd been watching some TV when she called me MAGA Maze one day, actually. But look, it's America first. I'm putting Texas first. I always say I'm never retreating from Washington, D.C. because I'm never going to Washington, D.C. I have always known that the fight is here. I'm a 7th-generation Texan. I was born here. I'll be buried here. This is our line in the sand. We are the greatest state in America. We are better than all the rest.
All right, well, that's State Senator Mays Middleton coming off a big victory. Now the Republican nominee for the state of Texas for the Texas Attorney General's office. Great to be with you, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jonathan.